and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be sewing the Rosa Shirt by Tilly and the Buttons. I bought this last year and I'm not sure it's for me and fits my aesthetic. For the last year, every time I would buy a pattern or get a piece of fabric or see something, I would just make it, regardless of whether it would fit into my everyday wardrobe or not. That means that there are some items that are still sitting in my wardrobe that I haven't worn. I mean, not that there's anywhere to wear any clothes anywhere at the moment. However, how many times am I going to use the word however? But I don't really want to make that mistake again in 2021 because I understand that it was part of my beginner's sewing journey in 2020, learning how to do things, learning techniques. I get that. But now I really want to hone my skills and make a perfect wardrobe that fits my style. See, with this shirt, it goes out at the hips and it kind of curves underneath at the crotch area. Oh, that's better. Oh yeah, much better. So basically, this fit underneath there doesn't really go with my body shape. I'm 5'2", I've got a smaller waist and quite a big bum, but I would tuck it in to a high-waisted skirt or jeans or whatever. I have some scrap fabric, some quite big, juicy pieces of scrap fabric. I thought I'd choose one colour palette and try and see how much scrap fabric I had in that colour. So I chose blue because I have this beautiful print, which is a sewing, oh, why did I say sewing? This isn't going very well, Elle. Please forgive me, it is my first video. It is a swimming pattern, and it's a cotton poplin, and I just think it's super funky, and I made a pair of dungarees out of these on my Etsy shop, and I've just wanted to make something for myself out of it. This is, oh, this might be a bit too thick. Anyway, we'll see. It's a thicker cotton. This blue as well, the most crinkled piece of fabric, which is very, very similar to the swimming fabric. This whole experiment for me today is to see what it would be like using different fabrics and different prints in the same shirt, and also as a way to use up scrap fabric. So yeah, I mean, it might take me a couple of days, so I might not be wearing this when I finish. I hope you enjoy the video and we'll see what happens. Yeah, let's do it. So first of all, I cut out all my pieces and then I interfaced the top collar, outer collar stand and both button stand facings. Top tip, I would always keep the paper pattern pieces with your fabric pieces so that you can check for any extra information and markings that it gives you. I am now laying each side front bodice over its matching centre front bodice and stitching them together. These are the princess seams, matching up the double notches. Remember to stitch everything with a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance and doing a back stitch at the beginning and the end of each seam. You'll notice that sometimes I use wonder clips and sometimes I use pins to hold my fabric together. There is no rhyme or reason to this. I just use whatever I fancy at the time and usually whatever is closest to me. So now we are moving on to the back bodice pieces. So lay each side back bodice piece over the centre back bodice piece. So there are two side pieces and one centre back bodice piece. Lay each side over it, right sides together, pin them and then stitch along the princess seams, matching up the double notches again. This is where you should be finishing your seams with an overlocker or zigzag stitch, and this is where I screwed up. I don't know why I look happy because this was genuinely so frustrating. I spend my whole life seam ripping. So it's worse than I thought. We're literally 10 minutes into this project and now there is a hole. Wow. That was really, really bad overlocking from me because I caught the side bodice when I was overlocking the back seam and I made a hole in it and I don't know if I have enough fabric to redo it. Overlocker 1, Elle nil. I just thought this was going to be a really easy day of filming and I'd have a shirt at the end of it, and already we have a huge bump in the road in the shape of this hole. I'm going to figure out what to do. Okay, so I don't have any fabric left in this colour, and I don't want to do one side panel in a different colour because that would look weird. So I think I'm going to make it into a dart. God, it's really crinkled, sorry. So I'm going to try and just add another weird dart there, and then make the side seam allowance less so that I don't make the shirt too tight. Luckily, I did go into a little bit of a bigger size than I needed, so I'm so thankful it's on the back. So only other people have to look at it, not me. Why am I doing this? We got this. I'm going to put Magic Radio back on. Woo! For those of you with overlockers, you will feel my pain that I had to rethread the machine. So the instructions say to overlock one side of the seam allowance and then trim the other side to half its width. And then we're going to be pressing that over and top stitching down so it can be visible from the other side. And that is on the front and the back bodice pieces. Wow, my face is really close to the camera. Here is what the top stitching should look like. You can use a contrasting thread colour or a matching one, up to you. It is on the front bodice pieces and the back bodice pieces. You then stitch each front yoke piece over its matching front bodice piece, right sides together, and do the same with the back yoke piece and the back bodice. Then stitch them both together. Okay. So I now have a full bodice with my yoke attached and top stitched on the front, and the yoke on the back attached and top stitched. That was quite tricky actually to get that curve perfect, which is definitely not perfect. And all the inside are finished on the same way that we did earlier, which was trimming down one half, overlocking the other, pressing it down and top stitching it, which is really neat. So I'm liking the colour blocking already. I just want to interrupt really quickly because when I was editing the video, I noticed that there was a lot less detail in the second half of the video as there was in the first in terms of visuals. I think it was because of a number of things. I didn't want to make the video too long and boring. I also got a bit carried away when I was sewing and didn't record everything I was doing. I just wanted to be upfront about it. I'm happy to do another video if any of you would like, with more detail focusing on the button facings, the collar and the sleeves, because they're the three bits that I say all of the instructions that you would have got on your instruction leaflet from the Tilly and the Buttons pattern, but I don't do as much visual detail. But I hope that's okay, and I hope you still enjoy the video. Thank you so much. Stitch the interfaced button stand facings to the front openings on the front bodice pieces, right sides together. You then press the long raw edge of the facings under by 1.5 centimetres on the wrong sides together, and then press the facings to the wrong side of the bodice, rolling the seam in slightly, and then 2 long lines of top stitching. Now for the collar. You want to lay the under collar over the top collar, right sides together, and stitch around these 3 edges. Trim the seam allowances and try and get some really nice, neat corners when you're turning it the right way out. After you're happy with your corners, you want to edge stitch around the short and outside edges. You can use a contrast top stitch thread again if you want to. This next bit I found the trickiest. First, you want to place the right side of the inner collar stand against the top collar, pin around that edge and base stitch that edge. Then you want to make a sandwich by placing the outer stand against the inner stand, right sides together, with the collar in between. Pin them and stitch with the interface outer stand on top. Next, you will stitch the outer collar stand to the bodice neckline, right sides together. You will need to make sure that you keep the inner collar stand out of the way. Then trim the seam allowances, press the raw edge of the inner collar stand under and edge stitch around all sides of the collar stand. And then it will be attached. Sew contrast gathering stitches onto your sleeve pieces and attach them to the bodice. The sleeves have been put in, the collar too. So now we're just going to be sewing the side seams Putting on some buttons. After sewing the side seams and the underarm seams, right sides together, it's now time for the sleeve tab with the buttonhole. I had a major issue with my buttonhole foot, so I actually had to sew this buttonhole just using a zigzag stitch and doing it 4 times. But it turned out okay. You turn the sleeves up and then you attach the button and the sleeve tab by hand together at the same time. You then add all your buttons and you are done. Oh, I can't believe I have a shirt. So that is that. The shirt is made. I actually can't believe that I've done it. It took way longer than I anticipated because if you're watching the whole time, you'd have seen there was some bumps along the road, but I'm really happy with it. I think the colour blocking is super cool. My boyfriend said I look like a cowboy, which I think is a compliment. Yeah, I also have a matching mask, which I'm a big fan of. I love the matching, especially masks to clothes, because I think if you're gonna have to wear a mask in a pandemic, make it yourself and make it look cool. So yeah, this is the shirt. Obviously, I've got the videos and the photos which show it in better detail, but I'm really happy with it. Some eagle-eyed viewers will notice some mistakes, some little puckers, maybe not the neatest sewing ever, but as I've said many times, I am a beginner, this is a learning curve, so the next time I make it, it will be better. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more photos of the clothes that I make, check me out on Instagram, which is @Elle_and_the_Stitches, and subscribe for more fun videos on YouTube. Thank you so much.